Hey everyone, welcome back to JP's Budget Collecting. Another episode of the Indie Show. We are still digging into Black Hammer to kick off season 3 of the Indie Show. We are kicking it off with the feel-good story of the year. That John just, was like, we got to read this. It's so positive. It's so wonderful. It'll make you feel good about yourself. So there he is.
Oh my god! And you're like, we're kicking off the new season with this, and it's like, oh my god, had to be Dr. Andromeda.
Yeah,
a sci-fi epic for the ages.
There you go, sci-fi epic for the ages. Oh, and we got this Justin guy.
Yeah, this is a great way to kick off this this new season for you, JP.
We're starting with positive.
Yeah. Get your tissue box ready here.
Yeah, it's so Justin.
Like 1 minute, 30 seconds in, he's like, "I'm not."
What did you think? What were your thoughts about just Dr. Andromeda?
This was a very very sad story, very heartfelt, but very sad. Learning about a guy who sees success in his work. We call it work, or as he calls it, his obsession. But so much success and ego that it really ends up backfiring in a sense, and ends up being too late before he realizes kind of what is true, like love and happiness is about. So this was definitely very helpful, heartfelt. I enjoyed the crap out of this book, and I read it really fast actually on my first go around. I feel like it read really fast. I think it's like less than 100 pages altogether, which is much shorter than the last one we broke down. But I really enjoyed it, but it was definitely sad. And look, it's Jeff Lemire. I mean, if there's one guy that's like a pro at knowing how to really, tug on heartstrings here, it's him when it comes to comic book writing. So, he definitely does just that in this series. So, but I do like that we get this glimpse into Dr. Andromeda and learning more about this character in this whole Black Hammer universe and the direction that it goes in. So, I definitely would recommend this.
Okay. And hey, Jen, what's going on? I was going to acknowledge you. Your comment popped up for me, at least on StreamYard, as Justin started talking. I didn't want to interrupt him.
What about right above that one?
You would have just cut him off.
There's another one right at the top. You missed the top comment. Somebody said hello to you.
I know.
I don't know who that is.
I am PVA Jazz Panther. So,
I'm assuming it's a high school, high school, somewhere. The Panthers.
She's asking, and indeed it was. I'll let John talk about that in a second after I give my review.
That's a true Black Hammer fan right there.
Yeah. So for me, I did think this was super interesting. It did give a little insight into this guy that we'd seen glimpses of previously, and we'd seen the Sherlock Frankenstein that he was kind of came across as this sad person when his dealings with and telling her in the previous volume not to give up, that they're still alive, they're out there somewhere. And now we see kind of where he's coming from, why he believes these things, because he had a similar experience, sort of. He got separated from his family. They kind of gave up on him. So we get to see kind of behind that scene. But we get to see a guy who, even before he's lost in space, is lost. I mean, like, he is, and it really takes tragedy for him to, like, actually start to prioritize the appropriate things, and which is really sad to see. Hey, Albert, what is going on?
He's a big fan too.
Yeah. So it was. So I made the joke at the beginning about it being the feel-good story of the year. It is not at all. Doesn't mean it's bad in any way, shape, or form. It just was like, I was reading this and I was like, when I got this, and like I instantly knew, like, as he's doing his voiceover, I'm like, oh, he's talking to his son, and then you see where this is going. It's just like, okay, like there's some heavy stuff going on here. Hey, Bronze Page, John, nice. What did you think about this in your first read, or what was your first impression when you read this particular volume?
So, I have several like touchstone books I read at certain times that kind of shaped me and my understanding of story. And Frankenstein by Mary Shelley is one of the top ones for me. It's just an absolute masterpiece about, it's perfect because I think it's a woman's view of men's obsession, and those men that are so driven by their obsession that they can't imagine themselves. They've defined themselves by this pursuit because there's nothing internal that they have of value. There's no gift to humanity that they're offering. Instead, she wants to look at this classically male trope of obsession. And in that book, obviously you have the monster and you have the doctor, and then you have the character that this Dr. Andromeda or Dr. Star reminds me of, which is the ship captain who kind of bookends the story of Frankenstein. He's the one who finds the monster chasing the doctor through the Antarctic, and he's on a very Shackleton sort of experience of trying to reach the North Pole, and his ship is lodged in the ice, and the crew is dying, and they're freezing to death, and they're trying to decide whether to return or not. And this man comes out of the wilderness and comes aboard the ship, and it's the doctor, and he tells the story of like, why is he here in the Antarctic chasing Frankenstein across this monster across the ice. And the beauty of the story is that the captain of the ship has to realize that his obsession is not only killing his whole crew, but it's killing the best part of who he is, right? The journey that Andromeda goes on is basically the same, right? It's this idea of he has to face death and tragedy to realize that his obsession is not meaningful to anybody. It's what the only thing he has in his life, but it's not really defining him unless he chooses to make it define him.
Right.
Mary Shelley literally created the sci-fi genre during an annoying boys' weekend with her husband and Byron. I mean, but I think it's such a, I mean, yes, but I also think it's a beautiful look at a woman looking at men and looking and sort of living in a life and working in an industry that was dominated by men and giving a perspective on it. And I think it was beautiful. And this book does some of the same, that male pursuit, that uniquely male pursuit of defining myself based on the mark I leave on the world. I need to pee on everything to prove that I've been here, right? It's that uniquely male thing. And I think that's what this book defines. To JP's point, this book was renamed. One of the many frustrating things about Black Hammer, besides knowing how to navigate all these things and what to read first and everything, is the fact that this book was titled Dr. Star, published, everything, and only to find out that in Canada there is a Dr. Star superhero, and the owners of that name refused to give the rights to Black Hammer, and as a result, after legal battles, they just decided to just give up and rename the entire thing. And they renamed it Dr. Andromeda. You can still find the old trades and find the individual issues. And sometimes you'll even read in a collected edition, and inside he'll be called Dr. Star sometimes and Dr. Andromeda other times. But yes, it has been renamed, and he is officially, I guess, now Dr. Andromeda.
So I'm curious to, like, when you dug into this, and did you read this in the order that we're reading it now? Did you read the original Black Hammer stuff and then read some more? Did you actually read how early did you actually read the Dr. Andromeda stuff?
I read it in the same order we're doing it. Once I had read the first two trades and realized how much I liked it, I didn't want to screw it up. And so it was really like, I went and researched online and looked at reading orders and then started buying trades. And I went pretty much exactly the way we're doing it. At some point, I realized it doesn't matter, that you could certainly read Black Hammer the way it means something to you, and that's fine. But that as far as the greater universe, it's nice to have things play on each other and to recognize, oh, hey, that's so-and-so from this book. And that's kind of cool the way they set that up, So I've tried to read it as chronological to the publishing date as possible.
Okay, because I was curious of, obviously you love the initial Black Hammer 12 issues, and I'm curious what role, like, because this is a very different story than the Sherlock Frankenstein one. What role, like, this one had for you in really hooking you into the wider universe as opposed to like the Sherlock Frankenstein? Like, I'm curious, like, in your thought process, because they're very different stories in a lot of ways. They're similar and different, like, because we're getting, we're kind of getting her obsession of trying to find her dad in the first one, but this is a very like, it's very like, I don't know, just the tone, the art, everything is very different from that one to this one. And I was curious how, if you'd even thought about like how this actually played a role in you like getting hooked in the wider universe beyond just the initial characters.
I think though the thing that'll come up probably a few times tonight is this idea that what Jeff Lemire has made is a beautifully broad universe that allows for so many genres. In fact, I even got into a huge debate with Mark from Legion of Comics this morning because he's worried that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is becoming so narrow that they're repeating the formula way too closely nowadays.
Yeah.
And they've lost the idea that they could do a political thriller and a horror movie and a comedy, and they don't necessarily need to have all of them follow the format. And I think that's the beauty of Black Hammer, is that they can make a World War II airplane pilots drama, or they could make a story that's like a sci-fi family drama, or they could do the one we read last time, which I don't even know how to describe it, but it seems like almost a screwball comedy in some ways. Sherlock Frankenstein, but then still have the main story be its own thing.
Yeah.
And I think this at this point, I started realizing what he had crafted was so open-ended and so broad that I was like open to the idea that I could pick up a book like Black Hammer 45, which is a World War II comic, and it's about soldiers and fighter pilots, and it's very different than this. And then read Skulldigger and Skeleton Boy, which is like, it's basically his Kick-Ass, and it's very violent and very graphic, and you're like, wow, okay, that's different. Yeah. And he brings in an artist that matches that and fits that, and then does it's like he's an editor at the same time that he's the writer, you know?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's actually like dig into this a little bit in the details here. So we get to meet Dr. Andromeda is an older man coming back to basically what used to be his laboratory, and he is narrating to this Charlie person who at first we don't know. Later we find out, like, kind of his own history. What did you think of just the setup here, Justin, as we were getting into this? What did you think of how they set this up and how it's going? Hey, Barry.
What's up, Barry? I think that it definitely sets the scene it sets the mood in this very kind of dreary, dark setting, and much to what we know already so far, not that we know much, but just kind of the glimpse that we have gotten so far, it kind of fits in rather well with where we're at right now. So I do like a lot of the background stuff in this as he kind of goes through, he's putting his finger through the dust of the table and desk and everything, and you could just kind of see pictures of him getting like the key to the city. I'm looking at, like, he's looking at his old suit that he had and stuff like that. So him really reminiscing, but again, in kind of in a very sad way, especially how he's kind of narrating it. I think it's really well done and definitely leaves it set in a way where it's like right away you're kind of asking these questions like who is Charlie? Kind of where is this going exactly? Why is, we do get this hint that he's obsessed with work, or whatever it is that he did, but we don't know the details yet. But so I liked how this opened up.
Yeah, Perry apparently doesn't know his caps lock on.
He's got a caps lock on. He's like,
or he's yelling.
How's it going?
It is exactly how I talk about Black Hammer to people. Is all in caps, if you can imagine. And Albert, a great comment, by the way, about the series and the library editions, which I believe is what you're reading, right, JB?
Yes, I've been reading the library.
And Justin, are you reading from the library editions as well?
No, I got the iPad.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, easy peasy.
Yeah, I'll have to get those.
Fallen into the trap of hardcovers, like.
Oh no, I am. I'm sorry. I'm gonna probably get those next.
It's fun that we've each read it in a different format, though.
Yeah, that's true.
That's three different formats.
I find it interesting, given your discuss your whole video you did the other day, and you and I talking about just the hardcover rabbit hole we went down that you haven't went back for the Black Hammer hardcovers yet.
I mean, it's probably going to happen at some point, but it's a ton of trades I've purchased, and shocker, but the Dark Horse trade paperbacks are stupid expensive. They're like $30 for a trade paperback. It's insane. They're like Marvel expensive.
Which means these are super cheap then.
I do agree, and I just haven't found my way there yet.
Library editions especially, those are great since you get the bigger artwork.
Yeah.
So
they are definitely gigantic because they're bigger, they're taller and bigger than Omnis.
Right.
Now they're not as like thick, but they're like bigger.
Yeah.
So
that's what she said. Sorry, I've been drinking.
No, it seems appropriate. Oh wait,
this is what exactly what JP was hoping for. With this.
I should always expect that. So we get that he, the backstory here is basically he was a scientist working on something. He got recruited by the government to make a weapon, and basically got all the funding he could ever want. And it's interesting to me that the thing I thought was interesting about this is when he succeeds, like in a portion of his quest, he kind of like, to a certain degree, it's like, oh, I could be the weapon, I could be the thing, and he doesn't actually like complete it. He has this glove that gives him this access to the power, but he doesn't go any further, which I thought was an interesting, like, it was enough to make him powerful, and he just used it. And then like he didn't really like continue to, because we see later in the thing that others did continue to pursue it and got further, and he didn't. What did you think about like his just the way like he instantly changed the moment he actually got power, like in terms of like what he was going about and what he was doing? John, we'll go to you this time.
I mean, it's like another example of that a myopic obsession where you're just so focused on one thing and you can't see past it, and so you watch somebody just be absorbed by it, and then that little bit of success. But you often in this series see him say something like, "But I'm so close."
Yeah.
And it's like he'll discover something and then be like, "Oh, but I'm so close to the next thing." It's like he's on to the next thing. And whether that is this superhero journey he goes on or whatever, it's never the thing he's got. It's always the next thing.
Yeah. I mean, and I guess maybe I said it the wrong way, because it was like his whole obsession this whole time was that this parazone.
The parazone
access,
but channeling the energy of the parazone,
channeling the energy of it, and he figures out sort of how to do it. He's got this glove, he do it.
He gets a taste. Yeah.
And then then it's like, now I'm going to be a superhero, and now I'm going to go to war. Now I'm going to like you said, it's like he doesn't even really completely understanding the parazone. And like, it was, I just thought that was an interesting, like how quickly his obsession changed when he actually got a little bit of power and he got like the ability to do something different. And it's like, oh, I don't care about that anymore. Like, go ahead.
It reminds me of we just had a little sad situation in the backyard with one of my dogs where there was like a family of bunny rabbits that were living back there, and unfortunately the baby bunnies are no longer back there thanks to our dog. But she very much in the same way, like, is excited to chase these things that are moving, and that's her goal. And then when they're not moving anymore, or she gets her goal, it's like on to the next thing. And sorry, it's very dark, but it's fitting to this, I guess.
I mean, not so much.
Yes, it was a very well, I said this was feel good. And just, with that theme right
there. Deep metaphors tonight. Deep metaphors.
So the other thing we see in here is we do get introduced to his family, his wife and his son.
Yep, Joni.
But to Joni and Charlie. But even from the beginning, like, they are not primary in his thoughts at all. Like, nope. He's getting this letter. He's writing or telling the story. Not really, as we see, it's not really a letter. He's telling the story to his son, to Charlie, but like it's clear all throughout that it's taken till this late stage in his life to realize that he didn't really engage or invest, or they were never like even close to number one priority or part of his priority list. I mean, they were so far down the me list that like, we couldn't even hardly see him. And Hey Gorvidal, what's going on?
Amoris Peros.
So because like I said, as soon as he gets the power, like he goes home to celebrate with her, but then it's like
he's out the door.
War.
She's like, but you just got home, Jimmy. He's like, I'm so close. I'm so close.
Yeah.
Always.
Well, and that's the theme. It's like at the beginning, it's when he gets the grant from the government, it's you just got home. I'm so close. And I did it, Joni. I captured the stars, and then I'm heading to war to help out. And it's like
he's just off to the next.
It's just off to the next thing. And
and the irony of always being like, oh, I'm so close to this discovery. I'm so close. And then always being far away. Right.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely an absentee father element going here. Pretty strong.
Yeah. And so we see, as we move through this, we see that he's, that his son is, I mean, he even like, I just love this whole scene with the heroes in their vote.
Oh yeah,
to go to war, and like these are people that know each other, that have been doing this, that like have a stake, and they're all like they're having a serious debate they're split about whether they should do it or not. And he just jumps in. I'll break the tie. You don't know me, but I'm Dr. Andromeda. And it's just like, and let's go.
Yeah.
It's just like, here's my chance for glory, and it's just sort of messing with their lives. Like not just, like again, he's just stepping over other people's lives for his own ambition, and just I'm gonna be a hero, and I'm and I'm gonna basically cast the vote that makes these other people have to do what I want, even though they don't know me, they don't owe me. And so what did you think about that scene? I thought that was a really insightful into him and what his thought process was. Like, Justin, what did you think about that scene?
Yeah, like I think it was in his mind, he's thinking this is more items that he can put on like his resume of building his legacy, joining the Liberty Squadron was the name or whatever, being a part of that. And as you get that little monologue of like them basically kicking butt, through all the different like fight scenes and stuff, and how great it was at that moment. And yet here he is telling this sad story basically of how he's like regretting the entire thing. He's just like, man, like, I thought I was the shit there. Like, I thought I had, was on top of the world. Essentially, we were, winning in whatever we wanted, and everyone knew his name, and he was part of this big group. So I think a lot of it was just building into his legacy. Again, the ego, like, just feeding into that. Wanting to be a part of something bigger. So, I do like that we got to meet some new characters too, by the way. What was it? Dr. Day and Captain Knight, which I didn't, we haven't read anything really. And then there was a horseless rider or something like
that. Oftentimes I feel
the Hawk,
Hawkman. Was it Hawkman?
Hawkman is the DC version.
Yeah, the actual, what is
they say it like once in here, but he was the old man in the last one.
The old man in the last one,
yeah.
Him in his prime.
It's not is he the Wingman? Is that his
Wingman?
Name?
Oh yeah, Wingman.
It's like
it's a great name.
Yeah, Wingman.
Yeah, he's got the giant.
Like, hey, can we take you out to the bar with us afterwards? Be our wingman.
Yeah, exactly. Wingman. It is Wingman. At first, I thought, no, that can't be. That's a ridiculous name. It's hilarious. It's Wingman. It is Wingman.
It's totally Wingman.
It's got to be.
I think the ongoing.
The end of this then is we get to see his son has cancer and is dying, and of this first issue, and and we just I don't know. I don't even know where to go. I'm curious where you guys are going to go because it just continues with him basically like putting his family aside.
Yeah.
Like constantly and consistently. And it's always like, oh, I'll be back in a minute. I'll be right back. I'll do, and he never is. And it leads him to, go to the stars when really all his son wants is to like him to spend some time with him. Take me to the, and we see like basically the son's wife come in and say, get out. You're not family. And we haven't seen why yet, but you've got the impression of why, because he was just never there. And we've seen that. We're going to find out how bad here in a minute. But what did you guys think of this? Like this interaction with him, like the 10 years later, basically after the war, him and his son, and him just basically ignoring him. Like when they're in the lab and it's like one moment and he's just like, it's what he did. What did you guys think about this? Like this whole section, John, what did you think about this chapter, the start of chapter 2, I guess?
It's certainly in keeping with the metaphor, which is regret, right? The theme of regret. He can't see the forest for the trees. No. He's so lost in it. And this is not a book where you're like, oh, there's a shocking twist. It's because it's from the get-go. He's telling you like, this is heavy. It didn't work out. This is my greatest failure. It's all those things. Yeah. It's all those things that he wishes he could fix, but he can't. And so he's just telling you what happened, at least his perspective on what happened.
Right.
Yeah. And I really enjoy so he goes off, he makes contact with an alien race, and he's like, I did it. I'm the first to prove it. And they want to talk to me. And, again, it's all about him. And he goes off on this adventure and like basically doesn't use his brain. And I find it humorous because it's all about it's all about him being the first to make contact and him being the one to like, that they revealed himself to, and him being important. And he goes off there and he screws up, and it's 18 years when he comes back. And we know just from reading the other Black Hammer books that like while he's gone, they make contact with all kinds of aliens like on the planet. So it's not even a big deal. Like he didn't even accomplish anything that was amazing or important or changing because nobody knew about it but him, because he was too busy swooping up to even like, relate his discovery to anybody. And yeah, he does all this. He loses 18 years with his wife and his son, and it didn't matter. Like he didn't get his legacy that he wanted. Justin, what did you think about, this, what happens to him, what he goes through there?
I mean, I think he was completely blinded by the vision of himself being as he quoted what was it? I had written it down before, where he defeats the dragon essentially, yes. And just being the savior of these aliens. Yeah. The hero. Right. He was just so caught up in that. And then obviously he didn't consider the time that he had missed when he was in the black hole and all this stuff, losing the 18 years or whatever, obviously put a big dent in ruined, his whole life essentially. Yeah. But he was just so caught up in the ride. Oh, here he called it the great Dr. Andromeda, intergalactic dragon slayer. And he has this like really, I love this panel. This was this like so epic seeing him try to go defeat, this thing. But again, not even considering like what would happen if you went to this place, and obviously the moon and everything, or not the moon, the black hole, kind of shifting time the way it did. It reminded me of what was it? Interstellar. Yeah, that was, I got some Interstellar vibes there, where it was like only minutes where he was, but years essentially back on, in the space shuttle or whatever. So I thought that was really cool there.
Well, I thought it was cool because even his great task that he does is he saves these people from this intergalactic dragon or whatever. But the thing was, the dragon was on this planet near this black hole as well. So it would have been years and years and years before it came back to bother these people.
Yeah.
I guess I hadn't thought about that.
So they were worried about it, but like he was
going. He just jumps the gun,
and he instantly killed it. Like,
right.
If it hadn't come back for a week where it was at, like it would have been like 100 years before they had to deal with this thing again.
He didn't even ask any questions. He's just like, "What? That guy? Kill him? All right, yeah, let me go do that." And he just I'll save you.
I hope you got really the good guys in this whole thing.
You know the scenes in Monty Python where the guy gets like shot with an arrow, and he's like, "Oh, if it weren't for you, he's like, you should not have died in vain." Or he's like, "Actually, I'm all right. I think I'm
feeling better."
Yeah, he's like, "We'll stay here. I'm gonna go."
I'll avenge you.
Yeah, he just like insists on like avenging him. He's like, "I think I'll get up and go with you." Actually, he's like, "No, stay here."
I'm feeling much better already.
Yeah.
Okay, so and then so here's the thing, like even as he's relating this story and he's been, so we get back to the present and he's like goes to the old bar and sees some of his old friends and he's like drinking, and through all of this, and then it's like, when he's talking to Wingman and he's like, he still hardly hasn't learned anything, because it's like, I'm gonna save him, I'm gonna fix it.
Yeah.
Like, so he like decides to use his power again and decides to like go back and try to contact the aliens because they could heal, and it's like he's learned nothing.
No.
Yeah.
John, I know you got something like.
Well, I mean, his character flaw is hubris. I think his ego will not allow him to live in the moment or appreciate things or see them as they really are. He's wrapped up so much in his own necessity to leave a mark, to be great.
Yeah.
That he doesn't realize that he can be great just by being a great dad or a great husband or what have you. And so I think that's the real regret and tragedy of the piece.
Yeah. Can I jump back for 1 second too on like more towards the beginning of the second issue, when it goes into 1951 and his son Charlie is trying to show him a drawing of him, and he's like, "Look, Dad, I made this cool drawing. It's you, and it's a costume. What do you think? Really good this time and all this stuff." And he's like, 1 minute. He's like annoyed. He's like, "Charlie, I said 1 minute is very important." He's like, "Oh, okay, sorry." That was so sad. Like to see the kid. Sorry, like looking down, and then right after he makes his discovery and he's looking into this telescope, he's like, "My God, Charlie, I did it!" He's like, "Did what, Dad?" And he tells him all this excitement, and he's like, "Oh, can I?" And he's like, he says, "Does this mean like Martians?" And he like puts the kid down. He's like, "Martians? No, not Martians." And like he almost talks to him like an adult, and he's just like, "This isn't some silly drive-in movie of little green men." Like he's like talking to him like this, and I'm just like, what a jerk, man. He's just so blinded by that. That was why I wanted to like cover that, because it was so it just pulled so much like of an emotion out of me to read that. Totally. And then even him saying like, "Can I come with you?" Like so innocently, like he just didn't even know how to talk to his own son to say. No. He could have said it in a nicer way at least, but he's just like, "No, you can't. This is very important. It's not for kids." Like, I just go back to the dodgeball voice that you use, John. Like, no, you idiot. Like, just it's not for kids.
Come on, John.
Sorry, what?
Come on, let's see you quote it.
Oh, I don't have the book open to that page.
It's 34 on the digital stuff. I don't think so, Charlie. This is very important. Mankind's first contact.
See, he's done it. He's nailed it.
The biggest and I love it. It's the biggest mission in human history, son. It's no place for a child. Yeah. And then because he screws up, it's not even a blip on the radar of human history, because
right.
There's all these other things happen in the meantime.
It's nothing. Yeah. Anyways, I just want to point that out. It was very gut wrenching to see the kid so sad like that.
Yeah. Well, you know, and we see like the aftermath of this at the beginning of chapter 3 when he like we're getting more of the aftermath of his return, or middle of chapter 3, and him going to find his son fighting in Vietnam, like, and like he doesn't even believe it's him. He thinks he's like lost his mind. Like,
yeah, he's like he's completely startled.
Yeah.
So
being in that environment.
I was like, wait, I'm not on that part. The Vietnam part? Oh, dang.
Oh, that's way in the middle. I jumped ahead because we were talking about like his son, but yeah.
Well, I wanted. Did we skip over the like Green Lantern Corps?
We did. I did. We can go back to that.
We can go
I was
back.
just like, because we were talking about how he treated his son.
I mean,
like,
this splash
right
or
he
spread
left,
page.
and then when he shows back up,
It's a good one.
Like he just expects his son to be happy to see him. It's just like
he's totally not.
He's so oblivious. Yeah, he's just oblivious to like anyone else's feelings in any way.
Yeah. So yes,
very frustrating.
And I do find it humorous that like. So he makes contact with them again, and they arrive, and he's like, "I need your help," and they're just like completely oblivious to his like what he's asking, and they're just like, "We need you, Father. Come with us." And it's just like he's being put in that situation to a degree, like they really did learn from him.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Mark, sorry that we're interrupting your game there. This could be one.
What's up, Mark? He's a good guy, Mark.
So, but yeah, the Green Lantern Corps, which
yeah, that is cool. They put it all on one for the iPad, but yeah, it's really great stuff. Yeah, I immediately was thinking that. I was like, oh, like these it's totally Green Lantern stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but what did you think of them just like taking it like, you're gonna come with us? I need to show you right now. It's like our stuff's more important.
I mean,
table turning, I guess, a little bit on him.
It's almost like they are his kids in a way. I know they're not, but like they call him father even, and you almost would think like the way they act is the way they learn from him, you know, and like he's the type of guy to just jump the gun and, you know, was it shoot first, aim later or whatever, and so they kind of are in that same vein. So I felt like it was kind of fitting in a sense, but also, yeah, I mean, it was cool to kind of get this, and I'm curious, and you know, John, you don't have to say anything, but I'm curious if like in the future we get more of like this storyline in the Black Hammer universe at all, like any, you know, anything, you know, the Green Lantern-esque, you know, alien Martians
Andromeda Armada.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Yeah. But it was a cool, you know, portion of the world. And I like a lot of the effects that they did, you know, as they're like soaring through space and all this stuff. Very epic scenes.
Yeah, we get the, you know, the flying through space and
yeah, those are cool.
And they've discovered the Parazone. They've discovered ways to go into and maybe extract and utilize the Parazone in ways he never achieved.
Because he walked away from it. Like they actually like did the work he was originally setting out to do, whereas he got a taste of it and then was on to the next thing.
Right.
And they actually like completed his work. So in some ways, yeah, they are. We have found the source. We have also found the Parazone and all its wonders. Like they've found a way to do everything he originally set out to do before he got like completely like sidetracked in his own ego.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I do think it's interesting that it takes this moment for him to sort of realize that this doesn't mean everything. Yeah, he's like, and I realize I'm skipping way ahead a little bit, but like, I think it's key to the whole thing. It's like a doorway to the infinite, Charlie. My heart's desire, everything I ever wanted, but there was something missing. And it takes to that moment of actually getting his original obsession handed to him, and to realize this isn't actually what I want.
Right.
Like, because he came there for a very different purpose. And so what did you guys think of that? Like his finally a realization there at the end.
It's frustrating. It's frustrating that it can take a person this long or this dramatic to finally realize something or to, which I mean, and this is real life stuff too, right? In terms of, I mean, people go through things every day where it's like, different living in different regrets or different decisions they make, and it's not until the mistake happens or whatever that it is when it wakes them up and saying, wow, I wish I lived and did different decisions or whatever. So it's frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John, what about you? What did you think of the, like?
I mean, it had to be, right? There's no other way for the story to go. It's set up as a tragedy and played out as such from the start. And he explains that to us right at the beginning, that, where, how regret has seeped its way all through his life. I love the final issue because it is layered with all the time travel elements. So they even have these great pages of like each sort of decade being broken down by 5-year chunks and looking at how static he is when you really pursue it this way and really examine what he's done.
After he gave up, after Joni died and Charlie wouldn't see him, and he just for a while he threw himself into his work before he finally when she died, he finally just gave up and just basically, he talks about I wouldn't say I was happy there, but I wasn't unhappy either. I just was. The days passed and I was still here. Nothing more, nothing less. He just completely, he realized everything he'd thrown away.
Yeah.
For nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But yet I do find it interesting as we're talking about this, before after she died, he just gave up. He stopped trying to make him, he never, so Charlie didn't want to see him and she didn't want to see him. So he threw himself into work again. But then after she died, he just gave up. He didn't try to actually really make amends.
Right.
To his son. And, which, his son didn't want to see him, but still he didn't he could have found ways to no, I realize you don't want to see me, but I'm still going to try to do the right thing for you and the grandchildren or whatever. I don't know. I just was,
I mean,
it's sort of pathetic in so many ways. And it's just,
Well, I think too, though, it's like he falls into this type of depression and doesn't really know how to handle it. And I know, people can take on depression in many different ways, but it's just looking at that scene of when he finds out Joni, when Abe calls him, and I love this kind of panel here. It's so simple and yet so emotional to see him just, sitting on the phone and Abe just quoting, saying that Joni died. And it's just the grays and the white. And, I just think at that moment, it just nothing mattered. And it just stuck with him. And, we jump into the funeral after that and everything else. But, I think it all just really got to him. And that's why he just shut down, didn't know how to kind of react to that. By the way, some of the artwork here, and actually even right before that, the close-ups of the face or the faces, I love this. I thought it was so well done. And again, just so emotional.
And what a great use of Abraham Slam, the arguably the main character from the previous primary Black Hammer story arc, to have him
Captain
be
America.
that person who, of course, would make the calls.
Yep.
The call that his wife died, the call that his son was sick, both of them, Abraham was the guy.
Kind of the bad news.
Well, because he refuses to give up on him, refuses to he's someone that rises to his responsibilities.
Yeah. Right. He is the Captain America, right? Of Black Hammer.
Basically, yeah.
That's how I took it.
Yeah, it should.
He rises to his responsibilities, which, Dr. Andromeda hasn't done really at all.
Right.
But I do think, I do want to point out, because we didn't mention it before, it is Max Fiumara is the artist.
The artist. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know that I've ever seen his work elsewhere, but you're right. It is his style is somewhat, it's very interesting. His faces are really a lot of emotion.
He was perfect for this.
Yeah,
I thought he was perfect for it.
and that is an interesting thing that you talk about, John. Is and we've seen that finding artists that match the tone of these issues that Lemire is doing, and like
it's not an easy get. I mean, and I think
Yeah.
you know that it's a lot of indie artists. It's not like he's getting, you know, Todd McFarlane to come in and do an issue or whatever.
But
he's definitely getting artists that are not your normal people, not your famous celebrities.
Yeah. The other thing is interesting here is that based on what it's showing here is that he did all the art. And like there's a very different like these panels versus this whole this is a fantastic spread page, but versus like the sci-fi stuff when he's with the Green Lantern Corps, like there's there's almost a completely different style. And
even this one, there's the bit of the Black Hammer flashback. That's a different style too,
which seems very much like the stuff we've read in the Black Hammer issues, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you look at those pages with the close-ups of the faces, and then you see like these Green Lantern pages, and some of these don't look hardly like the same style at all.
Right. Oh yeah, even this when he's looking in the water, and it's like almost like watercolors of the team faded in the water.
Yeah.
You know, moments after he or when he gets the bad news, the first bad news from Abe. Really cool.
Okay. Well, that brings us to the emotional finale here.
The emotional damage.
Yeah, the emotional damage, which is like we finally see that it's not a letter, that he's actually snuck back into the hospital despite his daughter-in-law telling him not to come back. And he's been just actually telling Charlie all this, and he doesn't know if Charlie's awake and hear him. He's just telling it, you know, and that he wished he never gone, and he like really expressing his regrets. And Charlie's like, you know, and he gives the line. It's like, I wish I'd just taken you flying with me. And he's like, take me now. Like, you know, that there's still not much time, but there's still time, and that does lead us to this fantastic the double page spread.
Yeah,
so great. Yeah.
And he takes him to the star. Well, sort of to the stars, to the moon, and and they can't really talk there, but they're just there together. And
I love when it shows it's like the two panels together that show him old and young. There, these two here, the shows Charlie as a boy and also older. Yeah, like that.
But Dr. Andromeda isn't, right?
Right. Just kind of at the end there.
And then it leads to, and again, when he's holding him and he actually like, when his son actually passes in his arms there, and you know, it's back to the little boy for a minute.
Yeah.
And you know, the little boy that he lost, that he, and it's just very to our final page. So it's just like I said, feel good story of the year. But you know, the things that we let the day to day, we let the, you know, what I'm going to do next get in the way of the things that are actually important a lot of times. And this story is all about this. The guy who obsessed over work and obsessed over, you know, being his own personal goals, and it cost him everything. And it was really, really good. It was sort of depressing, to put it mildly. What are your guys' thoughts on that final little sequence before we get to your thoughts on the whole the little story as a whole? What did you think of the final sequence there, John?
I mean, it's a tearjerker. It's exactly what you want from this kind of tragic story. You just want that gut punch right at the end, and it delivers.
Yeah,
fully delivers.
Yep.
Justin, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it it ended in a way that it was just it was perfectly ended the way it had to have ended. Like I was curious, building up through this kind of where was it going? And yeah, like my mind of like, oh, he's writing this letter, and all this stuff. And to really see him standing there at the end, just hits you. And then taking him off to the moon like that. I don't know. It's a tearjerker for sure. And very emotional. But I loved it though. I loved the series. Like this, the series was so great. I thought it was such a great trade, and really, like John, like you said in the beginning, like I think anybody could just read this if they wanted to, as kind of a one off, even if they never even read any Black Hammer stuff. Like
totally.
You really, sure, there's some little glimpses of Abe and some of the others, but you really could get through this and still feel as emotional as we all felt, throughout the entire thing. So, it's got a lot of life lessons and relatable stories all within. So
all right, so that sort of was final thoughts, but overall thoughts of just this as a whole, and where it kind of fits in. I don't know, just in thinking about the Black Hammer universe. I think we'll start with you, Justin. Like overall thoughts and just how this kind of fits in what we've read so far. What did you think? Was this a positive addition to the universe? Is this something you were glad not positive, but just something you're glad you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of like storytelling, it might be my favorite yet. Just everything that it meant and everything that it all the messages that it had in here. It might be out of the four trades that we read so far. But I want to know. I'm sure we're going to get more Dr. Andromeda at some point, or tie-ins maybe in some of these adventures. Maybe we'll see him in some other things. I kind of hope that is the case, especially if we're spending this time to like really get invested in him. So I'm sure, like John, you said before, like this is so open-ended and it's cool. This is what I love about it. I mean, about Black Hammer and everything. It's just how you mentioned, like it's just so the possibilities are endless. They really are, from all different standpoints, all different, I mean, we even have like kind of time travel-ish type stuff right now, even. So he really could go about it any way he wants, Jeff Lemire. So I think that, I mean, I think this is probably my favorite out of the bunch right now so far, but I hope we see more of him coming up soon.
Okay. And I do like things, but I have been on a roll lately of like ranting as opposed to I had thoughts about several things last night on the whatever report that I was not happy with. So.
I'm glad I missed it.
Well, I had a long rant about the new ASM, and then I wasn't exactly positive in my reviews of Moon Knight or Multiverse Madness. So yeah. A little bit of negativity, but yes, I did enjoy this.
I love everything.
It happens.
No, I mean, I do think the strength of the Black Hammer universe is its diversity and all the different facets that it can deal with, and all the different human elements that it can draw upon. And so clearly, Dr. Andromeda is just another beautiful note to have played. A heavy note, a tragic note, but definitely a really great one.
No. So for me, like, I still think I actually like the story like Frankenstein better than this one, although I did enjoy this a lot. But I'm sort of the opposite of Justin in the fact that, like, I'm fine if he shows up kind of like he has to this point in the other stuff, like just brief little cameos. But I'm okay if this is really all we get of Dr. Andromeda, in a way of, like, I feel like this is his story. Like, we've seen his tragedy. We've seen, like, what we need from him. That doesn't mean he can't like contribute in small ways, but I don't need a focus on him, I guess, going forward. I feel like this corner of the little of the Black Hammer verse has been told, and like, so I don't know that I need more Dr. Andromeda. Like, I would be fine with it, him showing up places, but I don't know that I need it. I feel like this sums up his life in a way that I think is, extremely well done. And I think, like, in some ways, if you've spent too much time focused on even other stuff, it might actually take away from this. Maybe not. It just depends on how it's done. But overall, this was really good. I'm really enjoying it so far. I am our next thing, we will be back to sort of the main storyline, if you can call it that. I mean, it's more of a main storyline than I guess than these others because it's, it has multiple volumes. But yeah, so I'm looking forward to continuing down this Black Hammer rabbit hole that John started us on. That's going to last till 2045 or whatever it is when we get through all the trades.
I'm all for it.
So we'll be back in a month or so. We're gonna try to make this pretty much a monthly. So thanks to everybody that hung out in the chat with us. Mark and Jennifer and Albert and Gore and Perry was here for a while. If he's still here, appreciate you all hanging out for a little bit. And with that, I don't think I have anything else coming out this week until my weekend stuff. John, you got anything coming up? Are you guys doing the monthly review a week later? Or are you guys going 3 weeks later?
No, tomorrow, Alec and I are looking at April. Finally, we were a little bit off schedule for various reasons, but yeah, we're gonna look back at April. Some of the books the indie books that we've been reading. So that's, I believe Alec is hosting this round tomorrow night. So that's really the big thing that I've got coming up here. I will be on Saturday. Yeah, I think it's a Saturday. I'm doing the. Oh geez, now I can't even remember it all. Oh man, I got too many things in my head right now. Come back to me.
Okay.
Oh, Rob's Fat Stacks. Jesus, John. I quit YouTube. I'm done with it. I'm out of here.
Not even
Rob's
11:30
Fat
yet.
Stacks. I'm doing the slabs. I'm doing his slab hub show, and
Nice.
gonna go through and tell some stories about some of the slabs in my collection.
There you go. Very nice. Justin, I know you only do like one thing a week or something, maybe
like a half a thing. Yeah.
So let's get the whole list. What you got coming up, man?
Let me pull the scroll out here. No, I actually don't have as much this week. I'm this weekend. I'm actually going to be going to the 3 Men in a Basement comic book swap. It's kind of a newer comic event that they've been putting together the past couple of years. So I think I'll see a lot of the community members throughout Connecticut, New York, New Jersey. A lot of people traveling to see that. I think Moonlit Michelle, she's coming up from Maryland. So that's over in Connecticut. And of course, my girlfriend and I, we're tying in a casino trip along the way because there's a casino 40 minutes away from there. So, I got to do that.
How many Lego stores are you going to hit on the way? Have you mapped them all?
Yes, they're all. Definitely. I'm like, I never been to a Connecticut Lego store. Oh, I wonder how different it is out there.
Maybe they have ones you haven't gotten.
Maybe. The one show I do want to highlight is this Thursday. Me and Fire Guy Ryan, we're going to be breaking down Superman for all seasons, and I just read that for the first time. And that's another kind of tearjerker. There's definitely some emotional moments there too. So kind of fits the theme for this week, it seems.
There you go.
But so we'll be over on my channel for that. I think 10 o'clock or something like that. So that's all I got right now.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're gonna get out of here. I would appreciate these two guys for hanging out with me again, reading a little bit of Black Hammer.
Always.
We'll be back for more, and I would appreciate you guys for hanging out. And we will catch you next time. Later, everybody.
Peace.